Have you ever felt your mind just get stuck? You know that feeling, right? Like there's a wheel spinning in the mud. You're working incredibly hard, analyzing everything, but you're just not going anywhere. It's so frustrating, it's exhausting, and honestly, it's a trap so many of us fall into. So let's just dive right into that, because that feeling of being completely paralyzed by what ifs, that's not some personal flaw you have. It's a real recognized condition, a specific kind of mental loop. And the thing is, it's not just in your head. It's often a product of your environment. Today, we are going to break it all down, what it is, why it happens, and most importantly, how you can get free. We're going to tackle this in 4 parts. First, we'll really define the trap itself. Then, we'll look at the big societal pressures that actually build it. After that, we'll get super practical with tools for immediate relief. And finally, we'll map out a long-term plan for actually rewiring your brain. It's a clear path from just understanding the problem to finally taking action. All right, let's jump into part 1, the overthinking trap. Because look, before we can even think about solving the problem, we've got to be able to see it for what it is and, call it by its name. Now, this definition is so important. This isn't just about having a worrier personality. It's a state that shows up because of a very specific spot in society. You've got just enough choices, which school, which career, which neighborhood, that you feel like every single outcome is your fault. But, and this is the key, you don't have enough of a financial safety net to feel like you can absorb a mistake. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. It really is a psychological pressure cooker. If you're focused on immediate survival, the choices are more straightforward. If you're very wealthy, the consequences of a bad call are, well, they're cushioned. But the middle class, oh, you're stuck right in between. You're constantly living with this fear of falling backward while trying so hard to move forward. And that makes constant risk analysis the default setting for your brain. Okay, so that leads us perfectly into our next section. We've defined the what, so now let's get into the why. Why is your brain so specifically wired to get caught in these worry loops? Well, it turns out society itself is doing a lot of the programming. There are really 4 core pressures always at play here. We've talked about that paradox of choice. Then you've got status anxiety, that constant low-level fear of slipping down the social ladder. Add to that a culture that tells you, hey, your success or failure is 100% on you. And then the big one, intense social comparison. It's summed up perfectly in the Hindi phrase, lo kya kahenge, which means, what will people say? All of these forces together basically turn overthinking into a required survival skill. And this quote just hits so hard because it gets right to the heart of it all. It's not about making a good choice. It's about avoiding the one wrong move that could bring it all crashing down. When that belief is wired into you from childhood, of course your brain is going to default to hyper-analyzing every little thing. It's a survival mechanism passed down through generations. And here is the sneakiest part of the whole trap. Society actually praises this behavior. That constant churning anxiety, oh, that's not anxiety, that's just you being responsible. That deep-seated fear of failure, no, you're just being practical. So you start to identify with it. It feels less like a problem and more like a virtue, which makes it almost impossible to let go of. Okay, we have picked this problem apart. So now let's pivot. What can you actually do? Right now, in that moment when your mind is just spinning and spinning. This section is all about immediate, practical tools to break that spiral. This is honestly one of the most powerful and simple things you can do. When your mind is lost in some future what-if nightmare, the 5-4-3-2-1 method yanks it right back into the present by using your senses. You're not even fighting the thoughts, you're just shifting your focus. It's a total pattern interrupt, and it can pull you out of a tailspin in less than a minute. I know, this sounds a little weird, but trust me, it is so effective. Instead of letting worry just leak into every single part of your day, you contain it. You basically give it an appointment. For 15 minutes, you can worry your heart out. But when that timer goes off, you're done. This teaches your brain that there's a time and a place for it, and that time is not all the time. It puts you back in the driver's seat. So, those tools are fantastic for putting out fires, but to really break free for good, we have to build new mental habits. So for our final section, we're zooming out and focusing on the long-term game, rewiring your brain to build real, lasting mental resilience. First things first, you have to learn to spot the difference. You got to know what's productive thinking and what's just destructive rumination. Healthy thinking, it's a tool. It moves toward a solution. Overthinking? That's a trap. It just goes in circles. Seriously, just being able to label it in your head, okay, this is just rumination, not real analysis. That's the first step to taking its power away. This right here is the golden rule for retraining your brain. It's everything. See, overthinking loves an open-ended timeline. But giving your thought process a deadline, you force it to be useful. For little decisions, give yourself 5 minutes. For bigger ones, maybe a day. That time limit forces your brain to work toward a conclusion, not just spin in more circles. And to make this super concrete, here's a simple structured plan. Week 1 is just about noticing, labeling your thoughts. Week 2 is where you start practicing that decision deadline rule. Week 3 is about getting a little uncomfortable, taking small actions to build courage. And week 4 is where you really work on cementing a new identity. It's a totally manageable path to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. And this is the final, and I think most powerful piece of the puzzle. Overthinking is usually tied to this identity of being a careful or thorough person. We're not throwing that away, we're just upgrading it. The shift from I think thoroughly to I think clearly and act decisively is subtle, but it changes everything. Thorough can go on forever. Clearly leads to a conclusion. This new identity makes the goal decisive action, not just more thinking. And this quote just wraps it all up so perfectly. The problem isn't the act of thinking itself, the problem is the emotion that's driving it. When fear of what people will think is in the driver's seat, you get overthinking. But when you can switch that motivation to genuine curiosity, to a real desire for clarity, that exact same mental horsepower turns into real, powerful intelligence. So, I'll just leave you with this final question to think about. Because when you get right down to it, this whole thing isn't just about managing your thoughts. It's about deciding what your real goal is. Are you just trying to run away from the old programming society handed you? Or are you trying to fundamentally change your relationship with fear itself? They're two very different paths, and the one you choose will make all the difference.